that miraculously disappeared, that was found. They tried to trick you into going with a higher tax rate when you asked them for a no new revenue rate. They came back to you finally after you had to fight for it. I was here. And what did they do? They gave you a budget that used up all of this free low interest loan we had. And they said, here, we're going to give you the same budget. We're just going to borrow more money. So here we're at. You knew going into last year, you knew coming out of last year that we were going to be here like this year. So what are we going to do? Last year we heard that the reason that the city really wanted that tax increase was because they didn't want to lose that rate increase, right? Because they lose that rate increase last year, they don't get it back this year, they don't get it going farther, that tax rate increases. A lot of you work in government, so you know exactly what I'm saying. You run a home and it's much different. Because you have to you just can't increase taxes. You got to make things work. But city senior staff, with the help of Kevin Cruz, with your successor, Pat Rios, they gave you guys a bad budget. They put you in a bad situation. You have two choices. Today, you can vote for the budget increase. You can make the taxpayers suffer from years of poor upper management, of bad budgeting, or you can say no, and you could put the screws on the city. And I know that sounds bad, but senior staff is your issue. But what happens is the people who are in the under echelons of your city government, what are they going to think? Oh, for 10 years, we had bad management. We had things run amok. And there was no consequences that were a result of it. There has to be consequences. You guys do not represent the city bureaucracy. The city bureaucracy has a city manager, and we pay that city manager very well to make sure that city bureaucracy is taken care of. You represent the taxpayers. These are times of gain. We need to be setting aside. No new revenue rate. Take what you got, set it aside, cut where you have to. I know the budget part is coming up. I'm waiting for it. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Christy Hutt, I'm sorry. I'm going to put everybody in the same. Christy Rutledge.
My wife had not heard that.
As long as she doesn't come at me. Sorry about that.
Is it okay if I pass these out now?
Just let me have them. I'll go around there, buddy. That way we'll
Okay.
have it quicker. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Christy Rutledge, 1411 Dana Drive. Before I say anything on the tax rate, I want to say that I appreciate everything that you do. All of the employees and all of the elected officials. Every single one of you, I appreciate it. This is the time of the year that we should work together as taxpayers who fund the budget and as elected officials that represent us and city employees who only have their jobs because we, the people, the taxpayers, give them money to do so. So that's why I'm here tonight. I'm concerned about this unused increment tax rate. This is the maximum tax rate that can be passed without triggering an election. It goes back and gets the unused increment from last year that you fought so hard to get, the no new revenue rate. And what we found out last year when we looked just a little bit harder at the budget is it wasn't really that hard to get to the no new revenue rate, and we did fine. As a matter of fact, the handouts that I've emailed to all of you, and I just gave to the mayor and to the city secretary tonight, show you that we are overtaxing to a level that leaves us with a lot of left unspent money at the end of the year. There is no need to have the unused increment tax rate this year. The Texas legislature passed the tax reform to protect taxpayers from local governments that would increase the taxes at the maximum level. And I believe most of you on this city council, I've had experience with, are actually fiscally conservative. So I think if you take a little look at this budget, you look at some of the unspent funds from this year and previous years, this unused increment tax rate is not necessary. In fact, you can get to that no new revenue tax rate pretty easily without a whole lot of effort. And we are your eyes and ears here to help you with that. We're not here to criticize or to judge, but all of us under the age of 65 are looking forward to someday hopefully retiring. I hope to not be taxed out and homeless in the next 10 years before I hit that 65 tax freeze. But that's where I'm headed, because in your budget, it states in the very back on page 220 something that the city intends to raise the property tax rate 9% every year for the next several years. This is not sustainable. This is not, you are hurting your middle-class families and your ratepayers and your children that go to school here more than anyone, and you're raising the taxes more than the school district did when they bought a new building. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a note here asking that I read this. This is from Beverly Mack at 130 Pecan Harbor Street on item number 2. Oppose any increase in property tax. Also have one from Mr. Tom Clarkson of 401 Inverary in Rockport. This is longer. He would like to say, I support the current budget and proposed increase in rates. Last year, when the council voted to go with the no new revenue rate, the discussion in the following workshops foretold that by going with that rate while keeping rates low for a year, it would have repercussions that would sting a little the next couple of years to make up for it. With the cost of everything going up, the proposed increases are minimal when you break it down to how much each person is actually going to pay. It would be counterproductive and irresponsible to pass on raising the rates again this year. The city staff, department directors, new city manager, mayor, our elected council members are doing what we asked them to do with the limitations that we, the people, placed on them last year, knowing that it would have unpleasant results this year. Let's keep it civil and allow them to complete the task of budgeting the city without all the personal attacks and misinformation campaigns we have had in the past few years. They truly serve our purpose, but to no purpose but to divide the city. The city, contrary to popular belief, has new leadership and great department heads that have a plan to overcome the pitfalls and rifts the previous leadership caused. Let's give them a chance to do their best and make Rockport the #1 small coastal town in America. Thank you for your time.
Sir, what's the name on that?
Tom Clarkson. Council, do you have questions?
Start. Any questions? Katie, what is our reserve fund balance right now? Like, it's our projected reserve fund balance when we go into, I guess, the next fiscal year?
Give me just 1 second, and I will give that to you. I have to move that document with you, just in case we need it.
Thank you.
This is, I think, get to the right page. You're talking on general fund, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 1 second. For the general fund, our unassigned, 9/30 of 21 is, $4,411,000. We do project this year, although it's not exactly, I'm going in the dark in the budget, that we probably will draw that down by about $280,000 to $310,000. And that is due to the payout of the previous city manager's contract. We discussed that previously, so he will see an impact this year that he normally had not seen.
Will that be a final payment on
End of December, it will be.
that? Okay.
That should wrap up the end of December.
If you don't mind, I'm just gonna run through a few questions. Is that right?
You should probably close the public hearing, have the next meeting, then deliberate on item 4, have your deliberation of item 4.
Rockport City Council will consider adoption of ordinance to adopt the tax rate for the city. What?
Number 3.
What?
Number 3.
Thought you said we can have.
No, close your number 2 public hearing, open number 3, then your deliberation will be on number 4.
Okay. We're completed with item number 2, we'll go to number 3 on the agenda. Conduct a public hearing on the City of Rockport fiscal year 2022 and 2023 budget.
You gotta say that.
Time. 7:45. 6:45, my watch says 7, I'm sorry. Item number 3.
You go to the public hearing on the budget.
Open the public hearing on item number 3 on the budget itself. Katie, you're sitting there, we're looking at me, I thought, wait,
Why is she
she's
staring?
not ready yet.
No, I was ready, I apologize. So this evening, we are presenting for a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. We've had several workshops in which we've discussed this information, and we presented it to you officially on August the 9th is when you received your official copy from Vanessa. You'll notice that the all-encompassing budget does have an operating budget for all of our operating funds, general fund, utility funds, natural gas funds, the swimming pool, also our internal service type funds, which we have is the fleet service fund. We also have our communication center fund, and you'll see our CIP in there. The total budget for all of our funds proposed for fiscal year 22-23 is $64,724,088. We show that as a balanced budget, we have the revenue to offset that. One of the shock factors to keep in mind is the general fund CIP. What we have involved in that is use of the existing proceeds for the CIP at the city hall. It's not issuing any additional debt, but it's showing the use of the debt that we show as proceeds received. So we have to show it as a revenue, as an expense, so that our budget is balanced. Every other fund that you'll see within there is offset by revenue that's actually coming in the door, either through fees, taxes, or services of some sort, or an interlocal agreement.
I have 3 requests to make comments on this particular item. Christie Rutledge.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I appreciate all of your time that you've spent on this budget, but I want to point out a few things that are glaringly obvious to me. When I saw the notice of Christie Rutledge, 1411 Dana Drive, start the clock. When I saw the notice of the proposed the hearing on the tax, the budget, it was pretty obvious to me that the increased amount for existing property owners was approximately equal to your increase in pay and fringe benefits in the general fund. In other words, existing property owners, and this is on your handout, I did a spreadsheet for you, analyzed it for you, from your own budget and from the ClearGov data. You're raising taxes from existing property owners, not new properties, $400,000. The total increase in taxes is $600,000. But you're doing so to give raises. and to fund your fringe benefits. Now, I want everyone here to get a raise, but when I look at clear.gov, and I'm assured by Ms. Griffin that that information is accurate, and when I download your financial statements from 2010 all the way through 2022, you can see on these graphs that there is a whole lot of unspent money, that your actual expenditures for fiscal year 2022 for this year will end up somewhere around 13% less than what is budgeted. For fiscal year 21, it's around $15 million, according to ClearGov. This is your financial transparency. So all we can go on is what your city staff gives to the financial transparency side. I'm proposing that the unused increment tax rate based on this budget is asking for the maximum tax increase when it's not necessary, when there should be money available in reserves that are available because it's not spent in this fiscal year or the previous fiscal year. If you have a $64 million budget and you need to fund your increases for your employees, which I don't doubt that they deserve. And I know it's inflation, but it's hitting us hard too. It's kind of strange to tax us out in order to give tax increase to your employees. Take it from your reserves. Take that $400,000 from your reserves, and let's stick with the no new revenue rate. Let's follow the intent of the Texas legislature. Let's make sure we have the most fiscally conservative budget that's possible. It's really, really very simple. The other item that you need to look at is your sales tax are under budgeted. So on these graphs from ClearGov, it shows consistently over the last 3 years, under budgeted revenues and over budgeted expenses. So please make the adjustments before approving the budget. Thank you.
Jeff,
Jeff Hutt, 2201 Prairie Road. I'd like to clarify Mr. Clarkson's statement. He is over 65 and taxes will not be raised. So what he was saying is tax them, not me. But anyway, that goes for you too, Mayor. A tax increase you will not have to see. And Councilman Jackson, I believe you will not see a tax increase either. When I talked about senior staff, I did not talk about Mr. Martinez, so I do not mean this like in a bad way. But the pool has been a drain on our budget for years. We hit it in past budgets. Last budget year, Pat Rios took it out of being an enterprise fund and he buried it in the budget somehow. We've known we've been losing money off the pool for years. We need to shut down the pool until we can get this under control. I'm a big fan of the pool. I like providing services for the community, but we just cannot continue to spend as much as we have been over the last years on keeping this thing running. We had certain projections when we first got the pool, and everybody had best intentions about how things were gonna run, and they didn't run that way. And expenditures got more than this. So, and if, I believe an intern city manager said it was $400,000 short. If it's that much, kill it. I brought up to you guys about using hot funds for cleanup and things like that. I don't know where that meant, but that's $200,000 that y'all could have had using hot funds to supplement your budget to use your cleanup crews and things like that. It's possible, it's legal, everybody does it. And I don't know why we did it. Your interim city manager said the city did not apply for it this year. I don't know how the city applies for something it gives out. That seemed a little shady. The thing with the COLA, man, it's tough on everybody. And it goes back to this, what I said. It's not nice that everybody gets a COLA. Certain people should not get a raise. Like you had people, seriously, and I can't believe that you still employ the people who lied to you and tried to deceive you. I mean, how can you expect your organization to run? But there's a lot of rank and file, good people in Rockport who want to come work here. They have good jobs and they feed family, understand this. But when upper management and management makes bad decisions, the whole entity has to suffer, and that's it.
And this is your first year with your new city manager. Send your city manager a warning. Tell her that these are the type of city council we're gonna be. We're just not gonna throw money around and waste money around, but when it comes time to cut the scraps and get where we're gonna be. Or she's gonna be just like Kevin Caruth in 5 years, and we're gonna have to get a new Brad Rudrett to come in and solve this situation. Yes, I know. All right, thank you guys. Please vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I have a note from Mr. Beverly Mack at 130 Pond Harbor Street. Again, on item number 3, her comment is oppose any increase in property taxes. Council, questions? Brad?
All right. Yes, sir.
Close your public hearing, move to number 4, then you get to talk.
All right, we can do that. Read this now. All right, can we get this done? Anyway?
Close the public hearing time.
Yes. Close the public hearing at 6:55. And read this memo that I have down here to read this at a point after the public hearing, Teresa.
That was on item number 2.
It said after 2, we didn't do it because we went directly to 3. But there's still a place for it.
Read it.
Here's what you need to know. The Rockport City Council will consider adoption of an ordinance to adopt the tax rate of the city of Rockport fiscal year 2022-2023 at September 13th, 2022 city council meeting at 6:30 p.m. at the Rockport Service Center located at 2751 State Highway 35 bypass, Rockport, Texas 78382. Public hearings being closed, we're back to the regular agenda. Agenda item number 4, deliberate and act on first reading of ordinance for the city of Rockport approving the assessment and renditions of the 2022 taxable property as submitted by the appraisal district, levying a tax rate for $100 valuation for the city of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, for the tax year 2022 of 0.220511 for the purposes of maintenance and operation, and 0.157638 for the payment of principal and interest on the debt of the city for a total tax rate of 0.378149 and providing an effective date.
Mayor and City Council, so tonight, we bring to you the first reading of our tax rate ordinance. The law requires we do this twice following a public hearing. So we're here tonight with the first copy of the ordinance. A little bit of history over the last several years, we've made lots of different directions when it comes to our property tax rate. Last year, we did adopt the no new revenue rate. And prior to that, we had a 4% increase, which was the over approval rate. Going back several years, we had adopted a 3.5% increase, which was the same as the municipal cost index. That was a methodology that was being used at the time, and that was in 2018-19. Currently, that municipal cost index rate is climbing rapidly. If you'll remember, we talked recently that the rate for July was 14.1%, I believe it was. So kind of keep in mind as we bring this rate to you, we're not actually asking for a rate increase, although it appears that it is. The increase that our constituents are referring to actually has to do with the increase in the property values rather than the tax rate. We have presented to you the unused increment tax rate, which does capture the percentage of our tax rates that we have not adopted over the last couple of years. That is a way that the state legislature does allow us to do a little bit of a catch-up so that we can move forward and have the ability to provide for all of our citizens the services that they need. So that's what we presented to you. If you'll remember correctly, our taxable value, our certified taxable value this year is $1.858 billion. In 2021, that taxable tax rate was $1.564 billion. So you will see that increase in the revenue, however, the increase is not actually in the revenue itself. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have two other cards to make comment. Kristen?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Hutt said, that indeed, this is a popular place to work, the city of Rockport. It's not necessary to give 5% COLAs every year. You gave a 5.4% last year because you have such great benefits. Your fringe benefit rate is at 42%. I broke that out here. That's very high, actually. Normal businesses would go out of business if they gave a 5% increase across the board every year, plus had a 42% fringe rate. What I want to point out is that your sales tax are greatly underestimated. They're based on an increase over the 21-22 sales tax. That's where you get quite a bit of revenue from. You can easily gain revenue and reduce the the proposed tax rate. You cannot pass this budget or this tax rate today until any changes are made and you see how it's possible to live within the budget at the no new revenue rate or a lower rate than what is proposed. The whole budget is based on this highest possible rate. But we have unspent money from this current year at about 13%. I'd like for city council to go back and the mayor and the city manager go back and do your due diligence over the next week. Go ahead and postpone this agenda item until you find out how much reserves are available that can be applied towards the $600,000 that the city proposes to raise in additional revenue this year. We have revenues left over from this current year. We don't need to increase the revenues by a higher tax rate. The no new revenue rate will serve you very well if you adjust the sales tax rate and if you look at unspent funds. And if you look back at 2021, there's quite a bit of money that was unspent, actual versus budgeted expenses. Where did that money go? Was it transferred into general fund reserves? If it was, then why would we even ever consider a tax increase? So you did the right thing, passing the no new revenue rate last year. Don't let anyone tell you you didn't. And we all survived this year, and we're gonna survive with an excess because expenses are over budgeted and revenues are under budgeted. And this is no time of year to pass a fluff budget with a lot of padding. I see the budget's a lot cleaner. I appreciate that. This has been a lot easier process for you. It's been easier for all of us. But this is not the right year to do that. We are all being faced with inflation. We're making serious sacrifices to live within our budgets, and the city should do that as well. Vote no and oppose this item until adjustments are made. Thank you.
Finally, I have another card from Beverly Mack at 130 Con Harbor Street, Rockport, Texas. Oppose any increases in property taxes. Council, question?
Is it my turn now? All right, Katie, you already got me the reserve fund. The increase in sales taxes, budgeted versus actual, does that go into the reserve, the general fund right now?
Sales tax is a general fund revenue. If there is an excess amount, then it would be all of our revenues plus all of our expenses. And anything in excess does go into the fund balance for the general fund.
Okay. The reserve fund balance at 4.411. I know we try to have 180 days.
180 days.
Where does that put us at that 4.411?
We're short, I'm trying to see it in my head. I think we were short about 40 days.
Okay. I remember last year, we were short.
We were short
60 somewhere, maybe?
between 60 and 75. And that does not include our debt service payments. That is only operations that we keep 180 days of operation. So that is utilities, humans, vehicle maintenance, anything that it takes for us to be able to respond to our citizens. We keep 180 days worth of operations. And we do that with all of our operating funds.
And what is the standard, I guess this could be for, I don't know, the standard for a city our size, is 180 days?
60 to 90 days is a recommendation. Because we are a coastal community and we do have a history of natural disasters, you all's predecessors made the decision to go with 180 days. I've worked with other organizations, they have $1 million plus 90 days. It kind of depends on the general area, but because we are a coastal community and we know what we've experienced, the decision was made when I came here in 2018 to rebuild our reserves back up to the 180, which is our fund reserve policy.
I guess going with this document that was emailed to us earlier.
I do not have that.
The clear, it's on the clear, so the 22 actuals versus budgeted. What of our,
Yeah, I didn't receive that email, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure who it all went to. Do we have our large expenditures coming up from the remainder of the fiscal year?
We always have a large sum of expenditures that come on a quarterly basis. We refer to those as our quarterly transfers, and what you'll see that's once a quarter is when you see all of our transfers take place between our operating funds and the, like our fleet maintenance fund. That's when you're gonna see the fuel bill paid from the general fund. Not that we don't pay it on a regular basis, but it's paid out of fleet. So on a quarterly basis, those transfers for vehicle fuel maintenance and repairs, you'll see that take place, and that can be several $100,000, depending on the events of the year. And you'll also see where we make our transfers out of the operating funds into the vehicle equipment replacement funds. We make our debt service payments late into the quarter. Generally, these are updated after we close out the month, and just because the month ends on the last day of the month doesn't mean that the financial part of that ends on the last day of the month. We do our best to finish our closings by the 15th. Unfortunately, whether or not finance closes out on the 15th is contingent upon lots of other moving parts. Some of those is just when the bank does their things. But so you'll see, and like I mentioned to you all earlier, we do a lot of projections and we look at a lot of numbers, and we look at history, we look at what's encumbered currently. And as I mentioned to you all earlier, the first time since I've been here, I'm not projecting a deposit into fund balance, whether or withdrawal this year, which is totally different. And I'm looking at what has been presented to you all without me doing my own research to know where these numbers came from. I cannot confirm or deny whether they're accurate or inaccurate. I'm sure that they're probably a screenshot, but I'm not sure what was built into the screenshot to get there. So I'd have to do that in order to respond honestly. But what I will tell you is that we are on target not to build into fund balance this year in the general fund. I think we will see a build into the utility fund slightly, and that's only because even though we're not supposed to be watering, we've had a lot of people water. But that was before we had all the rain that we've had the last couple of weeks, so that may actually reverse itself. We do have one more true month of operating in all of our departments, in all of our funds, that will result in how we end the fiscal year.
Richard had discussed about the sales tax increase. Did we actually put that in the budget from the
We
increase?
did. We
3.4?
actually increased our sales tax projections significantly higher than we ever have in the past. We have remained very conservative with a 3 to 4% increase because historically that's what our community had been providing to us. Following the COVID challenges of 2020, Rockport was very, we did okay because people drove to the coast instead of flew to Mexico or wherever else they may have gone. So we did see a significant increase in our sales tax that year. Because of that, and the continuation into 2022, we have continued to see a stronger increase in sales tax revenue than we had over prior years. So we did increase that significantly higher than, honestly, I was comfortable doing. And in all honesty, finance directors are always gonna be extremely conservative, because the last thing I wanna do is tell you I'm gonna bring in an extra million and fail. It's easier for me to come back and go, oh, hey, we got a little bit more, than for me to come back and say, we messed up and I need to do an amendment and pull out of the fund balance. So that's why you'll see us be extremely conservative.
Can you state what percentage you did this year for the sales tax? Would you base your budget
I think
on?
we did it at 8% because we were staying with the CPI at the time of May. And I believe the CPI in May was like 8.6%, so I believe we went with the 8%. But I can confirm that once you know.
I have one more and I think I'm done. And I'll let the rest. Go through the budget. I just had a question, from when we did the hot funds, and then the CIP, the downtown restroom. Is listed both places, under the CIP and hot funds distribution.
Correct. So it's kind of like I was explaining a little bit earlier about the CIP, how last year we showed the revenue coming in from the tax notes, and this year we're showing use of reserves. It's a similar situation where we have to show it as a CIP, but we also have to show use of spending that money in the hotel occupancy tax. So it shows an expense over here and a revenue and expense over here. So
So
it's,
the money is still drawn from the hot funds.
yes, sir, we're still gonna pull that on funds.
CIP.
We're just gonna move it into the CIP so that it's properly recorded and tracked as a capital project rather than a operating expense.
Do we have that as a pretty hard number? Pretty solid, thinking with that.
I'm looking at,
Right.
Yeah, the quotes that we received were a few months old. I mean, obviously, we're gonna have to go back out and get a new quote on that, but I don't know materials and where that is. I would expect either the same numbers or just a slight increase. Things are kind of moving
I
out.
think we actually put in there a 15% increase because we did anticipate by the time the budget was adopted in construction, we went out to bid on that there would probably would be an additional increase. And if we do not spend it, it will go back into the hotel reserves.
I'm finished. I'll let y'all go now.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
I mean, I think we all have something to say, so if y'all will go. Okay, I guess I'll go. So I'm gonna play on the side of my own ward. In this last year that we had significant rain and drainage issues, and I have only heard for the last year, fix, 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 fix. And when we got to fix that, what do we need to do that? We need money. How do we get money? So, yes, I wanna be conservatively, obviously, with our funds and money, but I also have to think that we need money to make things happen in our community. We are here to provide services. That's what this money's for. And if we don't have that amount to fix these issues, we can't provide the services. I wanna make sure when I'm doing a budget, even for my own house, that I have enough to have something to back up on. I have enough to make sure that I can cover if some emergency does happen, or if I have to fix a problem. So when I look at this budget, and again, let's go for last year, since that was brought up a couple times. Last year, we, as the new council, we hit you hard. We made sure that you went back and looked at that budget and made sure that you took out the fluff and did not present us with any other stuff that we did not want to see. And I do believe this budget, you did a really great job on doing that. I think you knew what we were looking for, you knew what we needed to see. And it's not always the, picture perfect answer that we want, but we need to have the right budget to make sure we're providing those services to our community. And especially in my ward, I can't speak on the other council, people here, but on my board, that was the main thing. They don't have an issue paying into the services as long as they're being provided. As long as that we are making sure that our upgrades or any kind of infrastructure is being done in our community. So my concern when people bring that up to me is what I wanna hear is, if we don't do this, what services are gonna be cut? What services are we not gonna get if I have to cut out this amount in my budget this year? So Katie, I guess after my statement, my question is, do you have some kind of summary of what will we not get if we do cut out and adopt the lower rate?
Well, I can give you a list of items that, and kind of what their value is, and then it'd be your decision as to which of those items, you would like to put up. For example, $250,000 is what we have budgeted for the Seal Coat program in the street department. We have close to $100,000 for drainage. If we were to take one of our law enforcement officer, the rookies off the street, that would save you about $80,000. Just kind of give you some ideas, a field service worker would save you about $50,000. So those are kind of some areas where, you may be able to look at, trimming. We did, during the budget process, Richard and I went to the department directors and asked them to come back and make some cuts so that we could present to you a budget that didn't have anything fluffy in it. And, so at this point, it would be services and or, FTEs that we would have to make a decision on what to cut. And could we make a recommendation to you? I think if we had to, we could put our heads together and come back with some sort of a recommendation, but it would be a true impact on a service.
So just to kind of give a reference, we did a drainage project in the Rockport Country Club that we're working on. That's $800,000 for one drainage pipe. $4 million in reserve. That's not gonna get you very far if you have to get fixed with your streets and anything else that comes up. You know, forbid that we have, a natural disaster comes through again, $4 million in reserve is not gonna get you very far. And it's not gonna fix the issues that our city needs to get fixed. And I just wanna put that statement out there because I am with you. I understand, I appreciate you guys doing your work and doing your due diligence, but this is another whole part of the pie that we have to think of when we're thinking of budget and we're thinking of where we're gonna put our money and how we're gonna do the situation. And on top of that, you want to talk about the employees with the COLA. Yes, people love to work here, but I have heard only for the past year how hard it is to find employees to even work in our community. To find contracts that bid, to find a reasonable pricing, just all around, it's been just a hardship to even find those things. So again, these are all pieces of the pie that we all have to consider when we're looking at this budget and what we have to do to make sure that, again, our job is to provide the services. And that is what we're here to do. So please just try to look at that as a whole and not just one piece at a time, because this is a whole picture here, guys. And we're here to work for you, we're here for y'all, but we have to look at it as a whole, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I just wanna make sure that I got my statements out there, and my points, and I wanna make sure that Katie had a point to put what services we would have to look at cutting if we took away any of this budget. That's all I really do have to say right now.
Next.
I apologize, but just because she said you have to use those. doesn't mean
Jeff,
those
you're
are
out of
what you
order,
have to
you're
do.
not be speaking now.
Yes, sir, I know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my turn. Cutting money out of this budget, okay? I remember seeing the actual ask for this year's budget, okay? Safety is always number one. Public safety is number one. And I would have done anything I could have to give the chief of police the 9 new officers he wants. Because we need them. But we're not doing that. He took them off the plate. We didn't take them off the plate. He took them off the plate. If we were to take away Mike's, however much it was for the seal coat, then that puts us behind in one spot, which puts us behind everywhere, which is all about maintaining our roads, which is what government's supposed to do. Drainage. Someday I'll see drainage projects in Ward 1. I dream about it, but that's okay, I digress. You know what, if we really wanna cut money, let's close the pool. That's $443,000 total budget. Is that something I would wanna do? No. It's a great place for people to learn how to swim. You got water aerobics, everything people use the pool for. It may be advantageous to look at in the future to maybe go from kind of a public-private partnership with that, to take off some of that weight on the city. I do not want to get rid of the pool. I don't want to get rid of anything that Rick does for us. Rick and his department do a very, very, very good job. So, what can I cut in this budget? Well, if you cut my $200 a month, I get to be paid to be here. I give that up, there's $2,400. What does that get us? A couple of postage stamps. I know that Katie, her staff, Richard, and Vanessa have worked hard at this. And the department has worked hard at this. This is, I didn't find any fluff in here. Like that $100,000 contingency that used to sit there. That's gone. I do believe there was one in the police budget that's now gone. There's a lot of things in here that are gone. I would love to say, okay, let me just willy-nilly cut out $600,000 so we don't have to pay increase in property taxes. I would love to say that. Let's be serious. Nobody wants to pay top property taxes at all, period, end of statement. But if you would like a police force, if you like streets that are not deteriorating, if you like public services for your children to go to, you to go to, I mean, that's just take Memorial Park. It costs money, it's shade free, folks. I'm sorry, it's not free. This money does not fall from the sky. This money does not it just doesn't show up magically because we want it. Being conservative on revenues is very important because we are not out of hurricane season yet, I will say that word. Height of the season is the 10th of September. And then it tapers back off to November 30th. We're not done with this yet. We have a hurricane hit tomorrow. Right now, we've only got, if you include hotel funds, about $5 million in reserves, roughly. That might get us through 3 days of all the things that have to happen. As Mayor Pro Tem said, you gotta look at the big picture, the whole picture. All of here. It's not just this and this and this and this. We provide a package of services that everybody wants. I mean, if you don't want street department to come and seal coat your street, let us know. Okay? And then we will charge you personally for every single repair that has to be done because it didn't get seal coat. I don't have a problem with that. Think about it, people. This is a conservative budget. Okay, 1 and 2. Everybody's dealing with a 9.1% inflation rate. Converted back to the 70s would be about, I think it was 16, 17, maybe 18%. We're all dealing with it. Nobody's not dealing with it. That's all I got to say about that.
Don't really have a whole lot more to add. I think my fellow council persons have done a great job articulating our process through the budget. Last year I was on y'all's side, sitting there watching all the fun as the council and staff worked through it. And now on this side, getting to experience it, I think that staff did a phenomenal job articulating their wants and their needs. They clearly eliminated on their own, under the leadership of the interim city manager, and then with Vanessa coming in, a lot of those wants and needs. And so I think they presented a good budget, one that makes sense for us. They did, Mr. Hutt's comments about hot tax, I think the city did a great job looking at those projects that are eligible for the city and applying for those, if there's a better word, I'm sure there is, but to make sure that hot taxes that are eligible to the city, that we are maximizing those. And we did have a conversation about the reserves and whether, 180 days was where we needed to be, and I very much agree. We need to be to a place where we have adequate reserves for natural disasters and other things that may be unforeseen. We've also been looking at a lot of grant opportunities. Vanessa and I have exchanged a flurry of emails. There's still a lot of grant opportunities out there for assisting with these multi-million dollar projects that are in our long-range plan for capital improvements and drainage, and definitely hopefully down south. And you have to be able to be optimistic when those grants come about and provide a cost match. And so we don't want to touch those reserves so that we've got those for disasters, but it also gives us some flexibility should we have an opportunity for a multi-million dollar grant that comes in and have, a cost match, that we can at least have a conversation, because we may have the monies available or not. But I think staff's done a great job. I definitely think the pool is gonna be a task for us this next year. It's already been discussed. We know that there's gotta be some changes there. Judge-elect, Greg Gars is here, and I appreciate you being here, sir. We definitely are gonna have to continue the conversation on the pool. I'm not prepared to say shut it down today, but we definitely have to make some changes and make some thoughtful decisions moving forward. Anyways, thank you, staff, for your hard work on this. This isn't an easy budget by any means, but I think you did a good job articulating what we need to do moving forward. That's all I've got for now.
Rockport's an exceptional place to live. People move here because they want to live here. We have a beautiful beach, we have all sorts of nice weather, we have all sorts of things going on. Even if you don't like 90 or 100-degree weather, it's pretty nice most of the time. But people love living here. Part of the things that they come here for are the services that we provide to them when they get here. And if we have to cut staff, if we have to lose patrol officers that are out working the street, making sure that we are as safe as we can be, the way that people living in this country react to things now, we will be in sad shape. If the officers that are working the street can't afford to get their cars replaced till they have 160 or 180,000 miles, they won't work. And when we have to replace street sweepers, and we have to go to large extents to find a way to keep the streets clean, that's not what we are used to in our town. We expect things to run right. Everybody here has got people in their part of town, in their ward, that had problems over drainage this year. It's because drainage maintenance wasn't taking place. There was bond issues passed to cover that and to fix it. But you can't keep it fixed if you don't have enough money to maintain it. And so we have problems with that. Parks will never make money. Parks are designed to take care of kids, young people, families that are out needing places to have recreation. And you never make money off of parks. I was in a larger city for a long time where we have a lot of parks, but they spend a fortune on them. And they never made a dime, because people don't pay to use the parks. They use them because they're an opportunity for them to get outside and have exposure to clean air and get out of the house. And if they lose those, then you lose services in your community and you start losing people. I have said back when the election campaigns were going on, I'm not in favor of taking money out of people's pockets. But the people that I talked to, a lot of those folks that I was talking with at the time the election was going on, understand that as costs go up, you have to pay those costs. And if you don't raise taxes to some extent, you're not going to be able to routinely, over the long stretch, take care of your infrastructure, your drainage, your streets, your parks, and other things that don't make money for you, but they're there because of great services for the people that live here. I've been sitting through all of the hearings we've had on the budget. I have listened to the council. People had very good questions. We have heard the staff answer the questions as best they could. When Richard was here, he did a great job with us. With Vanessa here, she's been very helpful in going over the things. And when I talk with her, I feel as strongly as I did when I was talking with Richard that this is a very good budget, and it has not got a lot of things in it that are not necessary. We have got to take care of the people. We've got to provide good services. And if we don't, the town's going to be in real trouble. In the kind of trouble that other people see it being in when we hear folks that are unhappy with everything that's going on. And that's not talking about the folks who come to the council meetings only. I'm talking about there are people that habitually are saying that the town is in terrible shape. It's not, but we have to pay for the services we want to keep up. And I hate to see that happen to some people. I understand. I was once younger and had kids at home, and it hurt when my taxes went up, but I paid for them. When they finally put drainage, curbs and gutters down our street, I got to pay for some of that. When they paved the street I lived on, I got to pay for it. And when everything goes off, we'll quit talking for a minute until we can get it fixed.
Sounds like
No,
a
TV came off for everything.
Tell me when it works.
As long as the smoke detector's not off. Yeah, we got Brad and Mike, we're good.
Tell you what, we will take a 10-minute break while he takes a look at what's going on here. We'll start back in 10 minutes at 20 minutes to 8. So you get a break. I changed it.
Is it kinetic or? Wow. Where you pick that up. I don't know if that UPS goes to that or if it's just our stuff. Work is an important thing to do, so.
I didn't know that. We're blaming it on him, like he kept something up here.
Every place that we see highly highlighted, the great values.
Thanks, man. Think about me.
Like 2 days, just make sure that.
No, I'm not usually, it's just cold in here. It is a little chilly, admittedly.
You know,
Oh, so you're the one that's sabotaging.
I'll take
So how's she's a little homesick, admittedly. But now that class is kind of.
No worries.
When it gets back off, like, she's got homework, she seems to be doing. My side street, I don't get on the main drag.
There's a goat from and he's been on it. He's like trying to. He's like, he'll send me pictures like he's
I was out of town. My dad was like, wow. We didn't want it. Then when it started hitting, everybody was popping up. somebody's got to investigate or yell at them. If you yell at them and they stop, they're just yelling at them. Like the raccoons, if you yell at them and they don't stop, we always get up and go look, but I go out there. Hubby
Just working out.
I didn't know.
Because it wasn't in that phone before. No, it's not. But why did we move it last year? Do you remember why it was? But it was something that was moved from it. I don't remember why.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, Brad said he's trying dinner, right? That's what I heard.
It's about time to get started again, thank you.
That's what you see. You're buying dinner.
I'm buying dinner.
Yeah, you guys all talk about it.
I'm hungry.
All right. Recess is over. Got to polish, got to turn it back on. The recorder has to. My new one, they don't know. All right, again, recess is over. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with some of you on the side over there. I appreciate your concerns, I honestly do, whether you feel like that's the truth or not. As I was saying a little while ago, and I'm not going to talk much longer, I appreciate the fact that I live here. I appreciate the fact that we have a place where people want to come and want to see us. I have relatives that come see me frequently. And that's when I don't need a tax. That's when I'm trying to feed those fellow. Rate increase is when I'm trying to feed all those people. And I understand feeding your families. I understand concerns with people whose taxes go up, whose valuations go up. You need to understand, I hope, that the city is like a family. It has needs. There are things we have to do. And I don't think that this budget, from everything I have seen as it was developed, while Richard was here and was being reviewed with Vanessa and others, and with the department heads, I don't believe that in this budget there is excess money being taken for unnecessary things. If I felt that way, I wouldn't vote for it. This is not a voting time, it's a discussion time. In a minute. But I believe that the city is doing really hard work in preparing a budget like this, Katie and her staff. And it doesn't look anything like the budget looked first part of last year. And I was visiting when that was going on. But there are things we have to pay for, and we can't if we constantly don't bring any more money in than what we did the year before or the year before that. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you. Council, anything else?
Yes, Mayor. Speaking with some constituents during the break, just a couple things, Katie, if I may. On the aquatic fund, is there a way to transfer some money out of the other enterprise funds into the aquatic fund? Any extras that we have in, say, water? We don't have any extras in gas or
I would not do that.
Yeah, I can't support it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So
I would not suggest you do that.
since we already went up on rates for,
Increasing rates for any one fund to pay for a totally separate fund is not appropriate in my mind.
okay.
the rate increases that we have for our utilities is for cost recovery.
Right.
And the utilities are independent. They operate as a business, so their rates must cover their costs, and only their costs as they're designed. Could you look at the possibility of using some sort of hotel occupancy tax funds for the pool? I think that's an idea to look at, but you would have to make sure that it does not conflict with any of the 9 requirements in order to use hotel occupancy tax. Some of our neighboring communities actually use their full community center.
Anyone else? All right. Council, I need a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the first reading of an ordinance of the city of Rockport approving the assessment and renditions for the 2022 taxable property as submitted by the appraisal district, levying a tax rate for a $100 valuation for the city of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, for the tax year of 2022 of $0.220511 for the purpose of maintenance and operation, $0.157638 for the payment of principal and interest on debt of the city for a total tax rate of $0.378149 and providing an effective date.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or question?
A few more things let's put on the record, Katie, if you wouldn't mind. With this tax rate, can you explain to us what the average bill increase would be for the city of Rockport resident?
Based on, the average taxable residential value, there would be a $69.14 increase annual.
69
$69.14 as an annual increase.
on the median
On
household?
the average taxable home value of $273,658.
Thank you. And this rate, what, around what year were we that low? The 0.37? Any idea?
No, but I can
Been a
get back
while.
to you with that. I didn't look that back, it's been a while, but I will get that to you in the morning, so I honestly do not know.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Any further debate? I have a motion and a second to pass the rate as written. Call for the vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. That's the last item on the agenda. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.